I've always admired people that have been able to make cakes. I would watch YouTube for hours to try to figure out how to make cakes. About a year ago, or a little over a year ago, I became a cake decorator, as you can see, obviously, at Winn-Dixie. And I have learned that it's pretty actually amazing to be able to make and create the things that I do. Cake decorating is a sugar art, which obviously includes icing and frosting and cake and other edible components that you make to make cakes, plain cakes, visually appealing. There's several different types of frosting and stuff that goes into decorating. There's a buttercream frosting, which is a softer and more pliable frosting. There's a whipped frosting, which is lighter. There's a royal icing, which is normally used on cookies and such. That is pure white and it hardens once it gets put on them. There is cream cheese icing, normally used on red velvet or carrot cakes. A meringue, which is a frothy icing. That's made by beating sugar and water and egg whites together. And then there's the fondant, which is the heavier frosting that, that can be used to sculpt different images. A fun fact about cakes is that the world's most expensive cake is a cake that is loaded with diamonds and fondant, hand carved fondant, and it costs $75 million. The cake that we're going to show you how to make today is a tres leche. We're going to make a quarter sheet tres leche cake with fresh fruit. So some of the materials that we need are, of course, the tres leche cake, a cake board, the whipped icing, the speed icer, the tip for piping, of course the icing bags. We also need the fresh fruit. Today we're using strawberries, kiwi, and blueberries, as well as needing a fruit glaze to keep the fruit fresh because we don't want it to mold as it sits on the cake. We'll go through the materials that we need together. You also need a hairnet, apron, and of course gloves. This is the quarter sheet tres leche cake. This is our cake board and cake stand where we make our cake on. This is our icing with the speed icer to ice the entire cake, and then our icing with the tip so we can pipe. We have a Bavarian cream that goes in the center. We also have the fresh fruit glaze, and then of course the fresh fruit, and that's the bucket of icing. I already decided to cut up the fruit because it does take a while, so that will give us just a few extra minutes without having to try to cut it all. After, of course, you've already washed your hands, first thing you do is you put your gloves on. Then you will separate your tres leche cakes. It comes frozen, so we will separate it. We will remove it, the top layer, and set it to the side. We will pop the bottom layer out of the container and place it over on the cake board. The next step is to add the Bavarian cream in the center. Scissors, of course, so we can cut the tip. Apply the Bavarian cream back and forth across the cake. Spatula to spread it out. The next step is to take the top portion and to place it on top of the bottom. You always try to center the cake in the middle of the board as best as possible, so when you put it in the case or into the thing, it doesn't touch the sides. Then the next step is to ice the entire cake. You pick a corner and the edges all the way around. The cake table does turn, which makes it easier. Starting with the sides makes it easier because as you're smoothing it all out, if you start with the top, you have too much run over and then it tends to want to fall off. Across the top. The next thing that we need is the icing smoothing tool. You go across the cake and you smooth it out. You get rid of all the lines that you just made. You smooth your sides out. The excess you wipe back off onto the edge of the bucket. Once you get the cake smoothed out, the next step is to pipe your border on. That would be this one, and we're using this tip to pipe our border around the top. Once you get your border piped around the top and the bottom, our next step will be to do the fresh fruit. I like to change my gloves between, just because you get icing, and sometimes if you get icing mixed into the fruit, it doesn't look quite so pretty on top. Okay, we'll switch our gloves out and grab us a new pair real quick. The next step, of course, is to glaze your already sliced fruit. We'll slide this back for a moment. As you can see, it's strawberries, kiwi, and blueberries. We will add fresh fruit glaze. We only want to put enough to really kind of cover it, not oversaturate, because it will make it a little sticky. We just want to protect the fruit from molding. Once you have that done, you add your fresh fruit to the top. Try to spread it out, make it nice and even. And there you have a quarter sheet tres leche with whipped icing and fresh fruit. I have shown you today how to make a tres leche cake with the fresh fruit. Cake decorating is a skill that anyone can learn. You just have to have the patience and believe in yourself. Thank you.